Welcome to Keto Beyond the Couch, episode 279.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Joe.
And we are two crazy ketos.
And if you're new to our channel, welcome.
Yes, welcome. If you're new here, please say hi down below.
Now here on Two Crazy Ketos, we do different things like recipe videos and we do product reviews. We talk about various keto topics, and every Monday we go live on Keto Beyond the Couch because life exists beyond the couch.
You can find us in different social media platforms like Instagram, Twitter, and X, and yes, Facebook. I just totally Facebook.
Now you screwed me up.
I know, I'm sorry. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Monday live stream. I'm a little bit off kilter because there's a lot of things going on around us.
The TV's on.
The first thing you're going to notice is the fact that we're not inside of our house. We're actually in our backyard in our RV Alligator. And because
they're turning off our electricity,
there's no electricity in the house.
So yeah, a couple weeks ago, our meter box caught fire.
Yes,
it just exploded one day.
Mm-hmm.
And so fortunately, we have an electrician in the family.
Praise the Lord.
And so yeah, FPL came out. They basically Jimmy rigged it, so we've had free electricity for 3 weeks.
You know, there's no free lunches.
He was like, "Here's the thing: they're going to go back and they're going to charge you for what they think you used."
My gracious.
But yeah, they're here. Of course, they chose a Monday to come and do it because it had to be arranged where they have to come. They have to turn off the electricity. He needs to put the new can in, and they need to reattach the electricity or turn it back on. And of course, they chose right in the middle of Keto Beyond the Couch. Fortunately, we have an RV that has a big beard battery system that we can do everything off grid.
But if you are thinking that you are going to traverse this keto journey without any stress or without your cheese getting moved, you are sorely mistaken. And yeah, it is not always like hearts and rainbows and flowers over here in the Stauffer camp, but we power through it.
We do.
Right?
So welcome to Keto Beyond the Couch. If you are new here, Keto Beyond the Couch is all about our subscribers. We like to do this every Monday at 10 a.m. And we basically just like to celebrate things. So we go through our social media on Mighty Networks, members.twocrazyketos.com. It's completely free, as well as our Facebook group, and also comments from the past week's videos that have been released. And we like to just celebrate wins, answer questions, things like that. We try to do this live as much as possible at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So if you are new, the way we like to do this is we're going to go through all of the questions and comments and everything from the last week. In the last 10 or 15 minutes of the stream, we'll address the chat. So if you have a question, try to hold off till then. We may or may not see something that you put in now, but we don't pay too much attention to the chat, especially because we're in the RV and I don't have all of the extra screens. So if there's something you want to talk about right away, if you want us to answer a question that's super pertinent to what we're talking about, use the super chat function. That's the $ that's down in the chat window. Because when you do that, that highlights our screen and lets us know that you have a question and we can address it right away. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Are you ready?
Despite all of the things going on around me.
We are going to start off. I need to pull up. We're going to start off with our Keto College Adjunct Professor of the Week. This was an inspirational post that we found. And this one is from Trish.
Hey, Trish.
Trish said sticky notes on the 3 things that distract me most from doing my PT exercises, my phone, my laptop, and my TV. That last one had to be huge to make an impact. I've earned 2 of them off the screen so far today. I'll be sure to earn that last one before RV Unplugged tonight. Then they'll all get reapplied before bed tonight. And the message, you want to walk, is to remind me that I want to be able to walk around Ketopalooza and 2KK Cruise this December. That's my why for exercising.
I love that so much. Thank you, Trish, for that reminder. That's something that came out of our Meatheads discussion. Every Wednesday, our Meatheads group in Mighty Networks has a topic that we're discussing, and we're in the midst of a 10-week discussion about confidence.
Now, what is the Meatheads group?
The Meatheads group is a special group within Mighty Networks. Most everything in Mighty Networks is completely free. If you're interested in accountability or movement challenges, that sort of group, total community is available for free. But for those paid subscribers,
people who want to support us financially,
who really want to fund the cause of Two Crazy Ketos. I mean, this really is our life, our full-time job. And for those people who have chosen to invest in us personally, we want to give back. We want to give honor where honor is due. And I think that the best way I know how to give back is to provide some discussions, coursework, meetings that we can talk about things. And one of the things that got brainstormed out of our most recent group was this thought of putting 3 sticky notes to get some things accomplished that you want to get done. And like putting it on your refrigerator, putting it on your computer, putting it on your television, and saying, you're not going to watch that next television show or enjoy some computer time or go eat your next meal until you get X, Y, or Z done. And I think that's a really powerful thing because, we know we're going to spend some time on our computer or watch a television show. So why not leverage that by reminding ourselves what's important?
John wants to know, are our freezers in the house plugged into the RV? No, they aren't. We could, but John said that the electric's only going to be off for a couple of hours. So we're not really bothering, we're so used to in Florida having electric go out for a long time. So as long as you don't go in and out of that freezer, I'm not worried about it at all, especially for a couple of hours. When we're down for more than that, we have a few generators. We have a Harbor Freight inverter generator we can plug into the house. It's like 5,000 watts. And then we also have a big open frame generator that can run everything in the house except for the AC, the stove, and the hot water heater.
And just while we're discussing that, we know that recently many people have been impacted by storms and power outages. And we just want you to know that our thoughts and our prayers are with you in this time as we recover from these things, because these storms, especially like, these summer storms, hurricanes, devastating to communities.
Okay, next one we have is going to be our subscriber of the week. It's Michelle.
Hey, Michelle.
Michelle said, I finally fit into my goal dress. It took me 2 years from 241 to 147. Don't give up. If you get off track or mess up, get right back on track. It's not about perfection, but progress and consistency. If you do treat yourself, keep it as low carb and sugar free as possible. Sometimes I do have a small loaded baked potato, which is about 40 carbs. But that's a treat, and I don't do it often, and that's my carbs for the day. Of course, I eat it with the fat and my protein so I digest slower. Anyways, I'm glad I don't deprive myself of some good healthy carbs once in a while. But the key is I don't stay there. I get right back to 20 carbs the next day. Keto on, everyone. Take a look at Michelle.
Oh, Michelle, absolutely stunning in your dress. And I really appreciate the fact that you tacked on to that this has been a 2-year process to get into that article of clothing. Things don't happen overnight. We live things out 24 hours a day, but it takes time. And I always think it's interesting, once I have pinpointed that this is the proper human diet, even though it takes a long time to get to your results, don't go off what is proper and right for human beings to eat because you're frustrated that it's not happening soon enough, right? If this is what we're supposed to eat, then let's just continue eating what's authentic to our bodies. And then just the results will come.
Next comment we have is from Sheila.
Hey, Sheila.
I'm seeing a lot of posts all over X and Facebook freaking out about Costco blade tenderizing steaks and warning that I need to cook to well done because of this. What do you think about the fear of Costco steaks? Okay, so if you know what blade tenderizing is, it's where they take basically equipment and they're puncturing the steaks to tenderize it. So it could be needles, it could be blades, different things like that. I think it's a lot of people panicking over nothing. Costco is like a facility where they process meat. The whole idea of foodborne illnesses would come from eating raw meat and then also using dirty utensils. They're going to be cleaning their utensils as they're doing that. So it's not something that I would worry about. Now, technically, if you were to go to like the USDA, you are supposed to cook all of your meat to well done, or at least cook it well. They tell you it's not safe to eat rare, even steak, though we all do, and nobody gets sick. So it's just not something that I personally would worry about. Now, I would say this is I find Costco steaks to be expensive. Compare it to a lot of other places, I find it to be expensive. Now, if it's something that you absolutely are really afraid of, what I would say is buy the big roast. So you could buy New York strip roast, you could buy prime rib roast or choice roast, and slice them into steaks yourself, because they're only, if they're tenderizing stuff with blade tenderizing, they would only be doing it on the individual steaks, but not on the whole roast. So and all they're doing is cutting up the whole roast in itself. So you can even go so far as saying, if you're worried about it, anybody who's cutting a steak off of a roast, which is every butcher in the world, you're always going to be putting metal into the middle of meat.
I think it's important to keep in mind that fear, worry, anxiety gets clicks and likes and attention. People ask us all the time, why do you think that you grow so slowly as a channel? I mean, you guys have been here for more than 5 years. Why are you still at 70,000 subscribers? I think it's part of the reason is we are just going to be consistent and positive, and that is not as tantalizing and interesting as something that's really like trying to scare you all the time. Like, you better watch this, because if you don't, you could die. You could majorly injure yourself. Like that, I'm going to try to pay attention to that, because it's like, wait a minute, what do you mean I'm in danger? My life is being threatened right now.
Right.
So I think that we have to bring an attitude of peace to even when we're reading reports, because it's not good to live in thinking, oh my gosh, I'm eating this meat, but am I going to die? Like, it's
Right.
not a good way to live.
We live by the motto of 90% is good enough. And that upsets people
a lot.
So we get the people on the one side, and I think this does add to us not growing as quickly, because we really focus on community and we're not hardcore one way or the other. So we are hardcore about certain things. Like I think a lot of the keto breads that you buy in the store, and a lot of the store-bought, not every product on the market, but a lot of the products you find in grocery stores that are labeled keto are not keto. And we're pretty vocal about, I don't think that eating keto-friendly breads that you find in the grocery store, like, for example, Mission tortilla wraps, are very keto-friendly because they contain wheat, which is inflammatory. There's things like those coconut clusters in Costco. So we're pretty vocal that way. So we upset people on that side.
But people are usually, of all the things that they want you to be hardcore about, that is not it.
Right. But then we also upset people on the other side that say we aren't strict enough.
Always.
For example,
constantly.
We did a review on the G. Hughes barbecue sauce, chicken and pork.
Ouch.
And there were a lot of comments of like, I can't believe you would consume sucralose. I don't have an issue with sucralose. The studies on sucralose, there's really one big study that says sucralose is bad for the gut biome, but it's seriously flawed, because they were giving those rats, first of all, we're not a rat, but they were giving those rats like ridiculous amounts of sucralose, like more sucralose than most of you would combine, and most of us would consume in like a year. It's so there are comments about the carrageenan. I personally don't have a huge issue. There's a couple of studies that say carrageenan, which comes from red seaweed, can cause bloating and things like that. The problem is the studies on carrageenan were done eating raw red seaweed, not when it was used as an emulsifier combined with other ingredients. So if 99% of the time or 90% of the time we're eating regular cooked barbecue at home, and then when we're on the road, we're eating that, I'm okay with that, because I think 90% is good enough. You're never going to be perfect. And if you're afraid of carrageenan, or you're afraid of maybe a touch of maltodextrin in a seasoning, if you ever eat outside of your house, if you ever go to a restaurant, I guarantee you there's maltodextrin in the seasonings they're using. I guarantee it. So you're going to come in contact with it. It's just that when you're at home, when you're cooking most of your food, you shouldn't be eating that stuff. And I think the problem is we also, the people who want to be that hardcore, they don't like us either.
Well,
but we're about community.
I just want y'all to know that while you are on your road to health and weight loss and whatever your goals are for your physical body, I also want to make sure you're tending to your soul. You are spending time with family members you love. You are going on adventures. You are seeing things and pursuing interests that really speak to your heart and your life. Like, it's important for you to get well, and then it's important for you to take that wellness and go live a life.
Yeah. Next one we have is from Jessie.
Hey, Jessie.
Jessie said, how do you feel about half and half? I use it to make my yogurt, but I've never used it as a creamer. I'm thinking about starting to use it because I like the idea it's just milk and cream with no additives or stabilizers. To be clear, I only use a couple of tablespoons a day in my coffee, and I really like the A2 brand that's easier in my digestion. I just struggle with heavy cream because it messes with my stomach and my IBS. What does everyone else do? So listen, there's two things. There's heavy cream and heavy whipping cream. Heavy cream, if you can find heavy cream generally does not have the stabilizers. Heavy whipping cream does because it helps to whip it up and keep it whipped longer.
Whip it real good.
Literally all half and half is literally in the name, half milk, half cream. The problem that I have with half and half is the label is very misleading. A lot of people look on the label and see less than 1 carb. So if you look on a heavy cream label, it says 0 carbs. If you look on a on a half and half label, it says less than 1 or 1 carb. Neither one is true. So they make the serving size a little bit smaller, but when you round up, heavy whipping, or rather half and half, has actually more than double the carbs of heavy cream. Heavy cream and heavy whipping cream both have carbs in them, even if the label says 0. So if you didn't know, all heavy cream has a minimum of 0.413 carbs per tablespoon. So on the label, they legally have to put 0. They have to put 0. They're not allowed to round up. They have to round down. So they put 0. You have the same thing with half and half. So when you multiply it out, for example, a half a cup of heavy cream has about 3.5 carbs, and a half a cup of half and half has around 6.5 to 7 carbs. So that's the danger with it. Now, with that being said, if you're doing 1 tablespoon a day, it's not a big deal. Just know there is sugar in the half and half because there's more sugar in milk. When we're on the road, another thing that will upset the people who are hardcore, like you have to do it perfectly every time. If we're on the road and we have no access to heavy cream, we use half and half.
That's it.
When we stop at Wawa, we use half and half. Now we don't get the sweetened ones.
Joe, I'm unsubscribing.
I know, right? So
I'm out of here.
Is it the best thing? No. I would also consider using butter. That makes a great creamer, which basically is heavy cream. Butter is just heavy cream with the whey removed. So,
and if you're home,
that's something to think about.
And if you are at home with butter, I can just take that extra step and put it in a blender, because I know that what is not palatable about butter in your coffee is usually the visual aspect of it. So if you blend it, take that minute to just blend it. You're at home, you got an extra second, just pour it into your blender, blend it up really good. It's going to make it nice and frothy, and it's going to give you, the color that you're looking for. Because really a lot of times we aren't even setting it by like a certain tablespoon. It's like, what color is my coffee? That shade of coffee is when I know I have enough creamer in it. Yeah, and for people who like butter, what really? Butter is made from heavy cream. They literally take heavy cream and then they churn it. Right. That's all it is. It's basically heavy cream. But it's got a lot less carbs because some of the whey is removed when you're churning it. And as Joanna says, you can also use an egg yolk, which sounds gross. It does sound terrible. But it does make it very creamy. It really does. Next one is from Becca. Hey, Becca. Has anybody heard of a weight loss supplement program called GOLO? Their site claims all the benefits of a ketogenic diet, but you can eat things like whole grain breads and potatoes. The website looks good. They say all the right things, but lordy, are they expensive? And I'm extremely skeptical. None of the testimonials have last names, which tends to be a sign that they're made up. Yeah. If it sounds too good to be true, right? It is. I would probably buy magic beans, like swap out magic beans for a cow before I would invest in this product. Okay, so I've looked at this product. Okay, it's a supplement with a bunch of things that help curb your appetite. Is it supposed to be like a carb blocker? It's not a carb blocker because they don't even really advertise it as a keto thing. Okay. They just say that you're going to lose weight and you're going to lose it healthy, like 1 to 2 pounds a week. It's basically got a bunch of herbs and things that become appetite suppressants. You still have to follow a very strict diet with them. And
going through the website, they have studies that they did themselves.
Right.
It's not like extra outside doctors studying. I don't know anything about the doctors that put their name on there, but there's a possibility. You see this a lot of times where you see doctors' names on a website and either A, they're paid. And I'm not saying that, be clear, I'm not saying that this is the case with Golo, but a lot of times you see doctors' names on things. A lot of times those doctors are the people who are behind the company to begin with.
Right.
So they'll put their name there. My biggest concern was this, is I was reading one of their studies, and over 90 days, the average person, and they were only evaluating like 30 people, the average person lost 7 pounds of muscle. We cannot afford to lose 7 pounds of muscle.
We can't. We really can't.
You cannot afford to lose 7. Once you're over 50, you lose 1% of your muscle mass every year. 1% every year. And so even if you had 100 pounds of muscle, that's a lot. By the time you're 70 years old, you've lost 50% of your muscle.
Well, I also think that, a lot of times we're looking for an appetite suppressant. We're like, I want to not have an appetite. If you think that your appetite is out of kilter, maybe you have done like 90 days of beef, butter, bacon, and egg, and you're like, I still can't feel like I feel, satiation, or I'm having struggles. I want to recommend you go get some lab work done. Check your hormone levels, check your thyroid, see what's going on. Instead of putting a Band-Aid on it, let's figure out, why is your appetite having a situation that it is? There may be some underlying factors, and you are worth the investigation to find out what that is.
So in the end, it's not just to pick on the Golo, but since somebody asked, and I'm going to say it, I think it's nothing more than any of the things that you're going to find in the stores, the diet pills. None of them work really well. Like, it's not like you can take this and then still and get results with keto. Right. You can't eat grains, bread, and potatoes and can think you're still going to be in ketosis. Now, can you eat those and still get yourself into ketogenesis? Yes. If you're eating like 3 slices of bread a day and nothing else, your body's going to go into ketogenesis because you're starving yourself to death, which results in your body producing ketones. Understand that your body making ketones is a way of protecting itself from starving. That's why it exists. That's why, for example, cows, when you have a problem with a cow, the first thing that a vet generally will do is check to see if they're in ketogenesis, because if they're producing ketones, it means they're not eating.
Right.
So if a cow is not eating well and they're getting the ketogenesis, it's the same thing with us. You don't need any supplements on keto with these, like you'll see keto gummies, keto apple cider vinegar thing, where that you don't need any of that on keto. And honestly, I don't think most of them are going to help. Now, apple cider vinegar does have some good benefits.
Yeah.
Just get some apple cider vinegar with or just plain apple cider. You can get powdered apple cider vinegar if you don't like drinking the vinegar. And after that, the only supplements that you need on keto is something like the salty/keto chow daily minerals, because that is going to give you the minerals that you're not getting in your food. And the reason you're not getting them in your food is because we're farming on minerally depleted land. So all of our animals are grazing on minerally depleted land. That's why you really want to try to get your meat from a local farmer who practices regenerative farming, if possible. And then possibly some electrolytes, because we need electrolytes on keto. And even most people who are on keto should be doing some type of electrolytes. But that's about it. Now, we have a link down below for Salty and Keto Chow. If you use that link, you're going to get 10% off of everything. But don't be fooled by carb blockers, or it's a cheating way out.
Well, I think
that won't work.
Well, here's the thing. I think it's a cash grab. This is not on you. This is on the company. It's a cash grab for them. They're going to say on the bottle, we can't promise you any results at all. Right. So that's like that's the disclaimer. Results may vary. And when it doesn't work, it plays on our own thoughts of ourselves that are discouraging, that it's like, nothing ever works for me. I'm broken. I fail at everything. And when it doesn't work, especially long term, right, it comes back on us. We're mad even deeper on ourselves. Yeah. Right. And that's really, really undermining.
And by the way, the problem, that stuff is super expensive.
Very expensive.
Next one is from JB.
Hey, JB.
How do these ingredients look for pancake syrup? Ingredients are non-GMO, allulose, organic, natural flavor, non-GMO fruit and vegetable juice for color and ancient sea salt. They're great ingredients.
Yeah.
Just remember the allulose does have carbs. I like allulose. I think it's a good product. Those are really good ingredients. Some people won't like natural flavors. I personally don't have a problem with natural flavors, but it's very similar to what you're even going to find in the RX sugar syrups.
Definitely.
Next one is from Laura.
Hey, Laura.
Today, my husband and I went to the farmer's market in downtown Ocean Springs where we started buying our organic grass-fed beef.
Nice.
Every time I go there, there's always an opportunity to share our story. We were talking with the sellers and realized the guy was a type 2 diabetic like my husband used to be. I told them how he completely reversed his condition in 6 months with the carnivore diet and is no longer dependent on medication. No more side effects and feeling great. The lady behind me asked if we are still carnivore and I replied yes, because we don't want to continue down that path again. She smiled and said, I've heard of that. So the message is getting out there.
Wow, how awesome. Like, thank you for being so bold and sharing your story and believing for the best that you can be a blessing to others. Like, that is a great way to stay on track for yourself, knowing that, like, I need to stay accountable so that I have this good news to share. And think about sharing that with somebody who's raising this meat and may not even realize that the prescription is in their backyard.
That's right.
Right? They're already raising it.
Next one's from Mel.
Hey, Mel.
Kelly Hogan's latest video explains why keto never stuck for me until 2 years ago. I think this is from last week.
Okay, go ahead and read again. Somebody else needs it.
I didn't have anyone else around me who was doing it except my family, who only ate what I served them, and they weren't choosing to do it. What's different this time? Well, part of it is the bigger why, but the other huge difference is this group and Dr. Berry's group. One of the things Kelly said was that if you have 5 interactions a day with people who are also giving up the same thing you are, your chances are so much better of sticking with it long term. In a nutshell, community matters. Yeah, it is from last week.
True.
So if you didn't know what I basically have a template and then I just go and do every week. But like you said, somebody needs to hear that.
Well, and you know, if you're interested in having some in-person community, boy, we've got some exciting things for you in August. Right in that first week, the Keto Orlando Summit is happening in Orlando, Florida. There are still tickets available. We are so excited about this event. Immediately following that is the finale rally for RV Unplugged.
If you're in Central Florida, one-day ticket, $20.
$20 for a one-day ticket. That's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we have, of course, Keto Palooza.
So exciting. That's coming up in October.
Yep, second week of October.
Don't miss that. If you're like, boy, I feel like I'm coasting on fumes when it comes to my friend tank. All of these amazing opportunities, take advantage of them.
Yep.
Go to the one that's closest to you.
Next one's from Laquetta.
Hey, Laquetta.
Looking for some advice or ideas and possibly recipes. My lady gets frequent UTIs, which has her regularly on antibiotics, and maybe a couple rounds of before we get a negative test. Two Crazy Ketos has a recipe for yogurt, which has live active cultures, about how much and how often to help. Any other foods I can use? I'd like to be, if possible, something I can make at home. Okay, so the problem is antibiotics kill bacteria, so I would load up. How much? As much as she wants.
At least a serving a day.
At least 1 or 2 servings a day. What else can you do? Any kind of cultured or fermented foods would really help. So sauerkraut, but not like canned sauerkraut in the store. You got to go to the refrigerated section or make it yourself. We have a video on how to do it. It is the easiest thing in the world to do.
And it's a fun date night.
One of the things that I cannot wait for when moving into our new house is the fact that once the house is done, we're literally going to convert the shipping container we're buying into a facility where we can do our own sausage, have our meat grinder set up. We're going to be able to make our sauerkraut where we have this big, long area. Obviously, we'll put washing stations and stuff in there. But just to be able to have it set up and do it a lot more often. Right now, you got to lug it all out and all that stuff. But sauerkraut's super easy. All you do is shred up your cabbage, salt, and then squish it and then let it ferment for a while. So sauerkraut, kimchi, any fermented food would help. And that would at least help a little bit for her to rebuild her gut biome that the antibiotics are going to kill.
Well, and also like consider what you are bathing with, like what are you washing with? Like I in particular are very sensitive to different fragrances.
Yeah.
And so like I have to be really careful, like if with bubble baths or like anything like soap, even basic soap. So like just take a look at like what are the ingredients, because it could be also fragrance issues. That's kind of the starter.
That you're talking about for getting the UTI.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would do is I would strongly recommend not using mouthwash. And this is really for anybody, not using mouthwash, as well as switching to a toothpaste like the Redmond toothpaste, which is what we use, because all of that stuff kills the bacteria in your mouth, which helps you digest food. And so you really want that bacteria in your mouth to help you with digest. That's where everything begins, the digestion. And so when you're using things like Listerine, I mean, obviously what is the whole point of it is it kills bacteria, but you're killing the good bacteria as well.
Right. It may just be a matter of like, you're going to have to brush your teeth more frequently. Cause I know that there's a concern about bad breath and stuff like that.
Next one's from Angie.
Hey, Angie.
Angie said, allulose. When you're making any recipe that uses allulose, do you count the carbs in it? I think I've seen Maria Emmerich doesn't count them. I'm tracking this month and starting using allulose again because 2KK is talking about the health benefits.
Aw, thanks, Angie.
In my personal opinion, and the opinion of a lot of people within the keto space, like Dr. Barry and Robert and a lot of other people, you should be counting the allulose.
The carbs, you mean?
The carbs in allulose, yes. You should be counting it. If for no other reason, it helps you to not overdo it. Now, consuming too much allulose, erythritol, any of the sugar alcohols, can cause gut problems, it can cause bloating, it can cause gastric distress. But one of the biggest things is they're sweeteners. If you have, for example, a keto-friendly dessert, like a mug cake, and you're using something like allulose, and let's say it's got 19, 20 grams of carbs from the allulose, and you're not going to count them, a lot of times the addict side of us will be like, well, I can have more than one because look, my
0
carbs
points
are still way down here. I mean, we used to talk about, I can easily turn 100 total carbs into 0 net carbs. The problem is these keto-friendly desserts, and you're talking about using them for baking and stuff like that, tend to be higher in fat.
Right.
So now all of a sudden you're over consuming your fat because we don't have a shutoff valve for the sweetness. So we'll overconsume it. So you can take, if you wanted to look at it calorically, 500 calories of beef and then 500 calories of a sweetened dessert. You're going to be able to get through that 500 calories of sweetened dessert and probably eat 1 or 2 more of them, whereas you'd be hard pressed to eat a lot more of just the beef. So we don't have that shut off. So use it as a treat. Count it. I would rather you count the carbs in the allulose and up your total carbs to 30, but then say that I can't have more than, say, 10 net carbs.
Right.
But I would not ever take out the fiber unless it's the fiber from something like asparagus.
I think that's a good plan.
Next one is from Sabrina.
Hey, Sabrina.
Has anyone ever put their Instapot yogurt directly in a strainer, or do you wait for overnight? I usually wait, but I'm kind of running out of time and would like to put it in the strainer. It's been in the fridge for about 3 hours. So we've kind of changed the way we do our yogurt since we made those videos. We make our yogurt in the Instapot, just like those videos. But then what we do is we literally pull it out of there. Ever since we dumped the
nut milk bags.
And we started using a yogurt strainer instead. We literally just take it and dump it right into the strainer and then like let it sit. And a lot of times we'll even let it sit on the counter. That strains up way faster.
Yeah.
But you can go directly from the Instapot into the strainer, put it in the refrigerator, leave it on the counter for a couple hours, and you'll be fine. Next one is from Andy.
Hey, Andy.
Non-scale victory. Scale went down and I can wear my shorts again.
Yay.
A month ago, I couldn't squeeze into them. I'm so happy to have the knowledge to counter the negative effects of my less than perfect stress comfort tactics. I'm so grateful for community and friends and learning new things every time I turn around. Week 1 has been very stressful.
That is awesome. And here is your friendly reminder from me and Andy. Wear the shorts. It's hot out there. Don't deprive yourself of shorts and tank tops just unless you're Joe, because you know my policy on guys in tank tops. But like, don't deprive yourself of comfortable clothing during these summer months because you're like, I'm not allowed to enjoy clothing until I reach a certain size. Stop doing that.
Yeah.
Today is the day that you have to live. You are not promised tomorrow or next year. So wear the shorts.
Yeah.
Wear them.
Denise said, I saw a comment here. I saw a YouTube video where you can add 4 tablespoons of whey to your mayo, let it sit in the counter for a few hours to ferment, and your mayo can last several months. Mine never lasts that long. Just be careful with whey, especially like liquid whey. Liquid whey contains a lot of carbs. I want to say it's 12 carbs per cup or something like that. So just be aware of that. I also saw Linda said I had stuff stored in a shipping container. The inside would sweat. Many of my things were ruined. Yeah. When you want to use a shipping container to store things, you do need to. It does sweat inside because you have the cold inside, the hot outside, and vice versa. And so you have to put vents in it. You have to cut holes in the upper corners because remember, shipping containers are designed to bring stuff from overseas here, and that's it. We're going to be buying a brand new or a one
trip
40-foot shipping container, and then you cut a vent hole in the top in one corner and another one in the bottom, and that helps air movement. Plus, some people will put dehumidifiers in there, but we're also going to add an air conditioner. We're going to make it completely solar powered. I lost where I was. Is it this one? Nope. It's down here. No.
Keep going. You're almost there.
Next one.
You got it.
Next one's from Kay.
Hi, Kay.
I have a bacon jerky question. I love the stuff. I don't have a dehydrator. Don't have room for one. It works great in my oven.
Awesome.
I base one side with sriracha, sweetened with stevia. My question is, how long will it last? I normally eat it all in a few days. I'm planning a 2-week road trip. I have plenty to last me. I need to start making it now, even though I don't leave until next week. Should I freeze it in the refrigerator? Will it be okay? Fridge is fine.
Yeah.
It's actually shelf stable for a while, so long as you vacuum seal it.
Just like it cold.
But we've made it in the refrigerator and eaten it 3 months later because again, you're drying it. Now you do have fat, so that's why you can't leave it on the shelf for a long time because that fat, especially if it's in like a container where sun can get to it, will begin to break down. It'll go rancid. It'll taste nasty. But storing it in your refrigerator, you will be perfectly fine, especially if it's just 1 or 2 weeks. Next one's from Elle.
Hey, Elle.
I had to stop and say I appreciate the point Joe made about so many of the ideas and thoughts coming at us on the keto carnivore space.
Aww.
I've learned to scale back on all of the advice. I really appreciate you, too.
Wow, Elle. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah, the key is don't get overwhelmed, especially at the beginning. Find one thing, work on that. When you've gotten really good at that one thing, maybe then add in another thing.
And you know what? We do that in other areas of our life. If you've ever had a child, you know that as soon as you have that baby, the parenting advice comes rushing in. And you know at some point, I have to just get to the caring of this child. And I really can't expend any more energy taking in information. I'm just going to have to do the best I can and go the way I feel like I should, right? And it's the same with your keto journey. You cannot just sit there and be like, I need to just sit here until I get it. I know everything and how the outcome is going to be.
I'm glad that we're in our RV.
Yes.
Because I just got a text message from FPL. The power is out at 4:0. There are 8 customers affected. Power will be back on it too, which means because of us, a bunch of our neighbors have no electric.
I am so sorry. I am so sorry.
Next one from S. Strand.
Hey, S.
Joe and Rachel, about the animals you desire. Have you thought about who will be looking after the ranch when you are traveling?
Great question.
I'm asking from my experience. I've always had to have someone stopping in, watering, feeding, or I travel alone, so my husband stays home or vice versa, and that is not as much fun. I grew up on a farm. We did not get to travel as kids. I'm down to 8 chickens and 10 quail, and when they're gone, I'm not replacing them. I can't wait to subscribe to the renovation channel. My husband and our boys have a concrete and construction company, and I love watching dreams come true.
I love it.
Good luck in your adventures. So yeah, right now we're going with our chickens. Caleb will be with us. We do have some family that'll be in the area. And then what we're going to do is that once we move into sheep will be the next thing that we move into. Probably not till the end of next year. But our plan is like sheep, get ones that are already weaned, where they're like a month or so old, raise them for 6 months, and then harvest them.
Right. Because
then they can just feed on the grass because we have unlimited grass, and then we also have water, so very easy for them. But then what we'll do is we'll try to find somebody. There's a lot of people in that area where you can get young adults, teenagers, things like that, to pay them to come over a couple hours every day, take care of them and stuff. Plus we have Kayla. That's free labor. Next one is from Mary.
Hey, Mary.
When my husband was in the hospital, they would feed him all kinds of carbs, and he was a diabetic. His numbers were so high, they would not let him go home until they were down. So I took over ordering for him, and I put him on keto. He was able to come home in 2 days because his numbers were normal.
Well, and that's what we experienced with Joe's mom. That definitely something to consider, especially when they're in a situation where you can bring food in. I know that like that can be, you know, not something that every patient is able to do, but it's been a lifesaver. Definitely shout out to Keto Chow, as our mom has been going through like recovery and not being able to have, you know, like solid food.
Yeah, she's starting to get a little bit of solid foods, and
but it's been
TMI, my sister said she did have her first bowel movement on solid foods and no blood, so that was good. But my sister did want us to extend to all of you, thank you so much for all of the prayers, for just all of the well wishes and everything that her and my mom really do appreciate it. So thank you very much. Next one is from Jamie.
Hey, Jamie.
Nothing made me more insane than the nurses throwing away the unopened Atkins shake. I brought Keto Chow, but I wanted some shelf stable, and they were giving him Ensure.
Yikes.
Then I brought real food and told them what he ate, asked them to chart it, sugar-free yogurt, tuna salad, etc. I had to go to work, and they would yell at him that he had to eat pancakes and brownies. It still makes me cry.
Wow.
Not to mention the statins that no one gave permission for, and the blood pressure lowering medications when he was at 85/50, which is too low. He would have died if I wasn't there as much as my incredible work allowed.
That is frightening. It is frightening. And, you know, we probably will experience times when our loved ones, our friends, people that we care about a lot have to have a hospital stay, and may even be like getting older and like they need care. And it's really important, I think, to take some time to really shop doctors, shop assisted living facilities, even shop hospitals before you need them, and say like, hey, you know, some hospitals even allow you to take a tour of the facility and say like, what is your policy when it comes to these things? If you're shopping for an assisted living facility or community, what is it? What's your policy on things like food? Nutrition is incredibly important. And I want to know that people are going to partner with me. Even if you're hiring somebody maybe for in-care services, is that person going to be willing to make a Keto Chow versus just pop open an Ensure because it's already ready to go? Like what is that level of care going to look like?
Next one's from Robin.
Hey, Robin.
What are your thoughts on local sea salt?
Florida beaches.
Here's the problem with sea salt. Here's the problem. Is sea salt better than the stuff you're going to buy in the store with the girl with the umbrella on it? Possibly.
Maybe.
Possibly. So the problem with the stuff that you buy in a store with the girl with the umbrella on it is, look at the ingredients. There's dextrose. There's plastic.
There's sugar in your salt.
But so here's the problem with sea salt, and why Redmond is better. Or not only, I'm not just going to say just Redmond, but underground mined salt, first of all, is going to have more minerals than just sea salt. Sea salt's generally going to be just sea salt. You want those minerals that you're going to find in Redmond. But there are other companies. Redmond doesn't have the only underground salt mine in the United States. They have like one of the largest ones. And the story about how it was discovered was amazing, because the animals were grazing in that area, and they're like, what's up?
Why are they obsessed here?
But like true Himalayan pink salt, which is very difficult to get here in the United States. Most of the stuff in the United States is fake. But true stuff that is inside of the mountains, underground, that is better. And the reason something like Redmond is better than sea salt is it's not exposed to the environment. It's down. It hasn't been touched in hundreds and thousands of years. It's not touched by all the pollutants. The sea salt, I swim in the ocean. I'm telling you, there's plastic,
seen some things.
You know, there's pollutants. You've got ships in that water. Well, they're just taking that seawater and they're turning it into salt, which means you're exposing yourself to all of the pollutants that are in the air, all of the pollutants that are in the ocean. You know, if you have an oil tanker or somebody has a leak, if gasoline leaks out of a car, that's all in the water, and that is going to be in your salt. So that's why I would stick with Redmond or another really good underground mine salt. I think Redmond's the best because, number one, they're a great company. Number two, it is not expensive. You can buy it pretty much everywhere. Now, if you want to buy it online and support us, you can buy it with the link down below and get 15% off. And that does support us. And the price is pretty much the same that you're going to find at a local store. But now you're supporting the company directly instead of giving the money to your local store like Walmart or something like that. You end up paying the same price. But, you know, the thing is they're here in America and we're supporting an American company, and you're not taking something like, even if you found real Himalayan salt, it's not coming from another part of the country. Now, if you were in the Himalayas, I would tell you shouldn't be consuming Redmond. You should be consuming Himalayan pink salt, real stuff. But since you're here in America, you should be consuming Redmond, not just because it's an American company, but because it's local, and local is always better for us.
Well, she was mentioning local sea salt.
Yeah, but again, I talked about sea salt.
That's more of the environmental part.
Next part is from Leslie.
Hey, Leslie.
I'm nearly in tears. About 3/4 of the way through this video, I made the commitment to 3 months of carnivore almost 3 weeks ago. Almost every single word out of your mouths is directed right at me. The comments about doctors and prescriptions, the stuff about edema, massive leg and ankle swelling, buying into the nutrition misinformation, all my 64 years and losing the battle the entire time. I didn't know the difference about chicken and pork, so I'm so glad, very glad to know that now. And beef, butter, bacon, and egg will now be my focus. I'm not quite sure, not sure quite how to do the butter part yet, but I will figure that out quickly, I'm sure. Thanks so much for this, and that all that you bring to the carnivore table. I'm only found y'all recently, but so glad.
Wow, Leslie, thank you.
So as far as butter on beef, butter, bacon, egg, it doesn't mean you have to eat massive amounts of butter. It means that, like, when you're taking your steaks and stuff, put butter on it.
Right.
Like, butter is an okay fat. Any animal fat. So you can use butter, ghee, lard, tallow, like any animal fat, duck fat, any kind of animal fat. Next one, last one actually, is from Val the Pool Gal.
Hey, Val.
Said, oh, Rachel, try to chop up your kimchi in a food processor, then add your favorite keto mayo.
Ooh.
It is the best coleslaw, especially for a topper for the barbecue you got.
Mind explosion. Like, I am so
bad
doing
you threw out the fish one.
Val,
we
might have been able to save it, but I have a new one, you know, in the refrigerator from a brand that was more palatable for me. But I am doing that thing. Thank you.
You like that?
I love it. I love that. Yes.
Let's get into some comments. First, I want to say thank you very much to Jessica.
Thanks, Jessica.
For the $5 super chat. It said, I'm looking for some shelf-stable keto carnivore snacks that I can leave in my desk. Any suggestions? Also, do you have another ice cream challenge?
Oh, how fun.
Okay, shelf-stable keto carnivore snacks.
That have jerky.
Beef stick
that you like.
Names like beef jerky, clean beef sticks. You can make your own jerky if you want. Matt Hack is good. Carnivore bars, they are a bit expensive. However, we have a recipe video on how to make them. Something like keto brick, pork rinds.
Pork rinds is really good. There's all kinds of crackers. Like, since you said keto and not just carnivore, you know, the Wisps crackers, cheese crackers are really good to keep in your desk. If you can be trusted with nuts, especially single serving sizes are really good. I love macadamia nuts. There's more and more like keto trail mixes kind of coming out, like, to check out. So yeah, any of those things I think would be good.
Denise said, I wonder if you have to be in the hospital, could you use Instacart and have food delivered if you have no one to advocate for you?
I would ask the hospital that you think, or medical center, especially if it's like an outpatient thing, that can I bring food in? Because sometimes they have like contamination, you know, restrictions or something, you know, policies in place. So really shop the hospital to like find out what are their particular policies.
Yeah. I just saw one. I thought it was interesting. Sandy said, I put my food dehydrator on top of my clothes dryer. It's tight in the room with the HVAC and water heater, but it's a necessary tool now. I eat meat thins daily.
I am so glad. Now, something that I had yesterday that you may enjoy is I found really thick cut like turkey lunch meat. And I put that in my dehydrator and dehydrated it took about like 5 hours in the dehydrator, just, you know, the same as you're eating your meat thins, just a different meat thin. And it kind of curls up in a really beautiful way. My meat thins stay straight, but the turkey kind of curled up a little bit, and it provided the very best crunchy taco shell. I had breakfast nachos yesterday for breakfast, and it was delicious. So if you're looking for, you know, something else you can do in your dehydrator, consider that, because it was really tasty.
Joanna said, if someone mentions negativity about my food, I just say I eat real foods and have eliminated sugar. Most don't realize bread is sugar.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
you
true.
know,
it's actually worse than sugar.
It's interesting, like, how many people feel like that is their right to comment on what you're doing, to have this commentary on your life. And, you know, you can just decide for yourself that, like, I see you publishing your editorial in my life, and I decide that I'm not going to read your column. I'm not going to read your commentary on what I'm doing. I'm not going to accept that. I know what is best for me. I have enough of a hard time staying consistent and pursuing my goals in the midst of my own worry and doubt. I don't need to take yours on.
Okay, here is a really good question from Debbie.
Hey, Debbie.
How do you know if eggs in the fridge are still good since I've been gone?
Great question.
This is a great question. So, a little thing about eggs. Eggs, on average, are good for about 60 days from when they come out of the chicken's butt.
Have to phrase it like that?
I do.
Okay.
They're generally good for about 30 days. Actually, it's 60 days from when they go into the carton. Okay. They're generally good for about 30 days past the best by date on the container that you get. Now, 2 ways to know if they're still good. I've had it even longer past that. You're not going to get sick unless one of 2 things happen. You can do the float test. Take the eggs, put them into like a bowl of water. If they float, throw them out.
Yeah.
Okay. They should not float. If they float, they're bad because they're like fermenting basically. Or you use the best test of all, which is your nose. And I know that sounds weird, but if they don't have a rot, you will know. As soon as you crack open that egg, you will know.
They have a smell.
So here's what we do is there have been times where the ladies have laid eggs and they found a new spot to lay the eggs. And I don't know how long they've been there. So if we have a lot of eggs, sometimes we'll toss them or feed them back to them. But if I think, okay, well, it's probably only 2 or 3 days and they can stay outside for a while. Like
even this heat.
So long as you don't wash them, like you can put a couple of weeks without refrigerating eggs. But as soon as you wash them, they have to go into the fridge. What I would do is if you are questioning and you're, for example, making a recipe, let's say you're making, I don't know, a cake or something like that, or any recipe that's calling for eggs and you have multiple ingredients, crack the eggs into a glass first and do the sniff test. If they don't smell rotten, they're good. But the problem is if you're questioning it, and let's say you have a bowl of ingredients and you crack it and go in there, and then you're like, oh my gosh, that's bad. You've just lost the other ingredients.
You got to keep them separated.
But generally, eggs are good long past the best by date. Remember, there's only actually one thing in the United States that has a true expiration date, and that's baby formula. Everything else is subjective to local laws, and it's almost always best by dates, not expiration dates. Everything is a best by date, and you'll find if you ever go work in a grocery store, they can change the date. You learn that, right?
I actually watched them
like
change
frozen
dates.
pizzas and stuff. They can change the date of what the best by date
Oh,
is.
they didn't sell yet?
So it doesn't mean it's going to get you sick. It's like Twinkies. Okay, none of us eat Twinkies. Twinkies actually have a best by date, but you can eat them 10 years past the best by date, which is why we shouldn't be eating Twinkies.
That makes me want to watch that movie Zombieland.
That's where I'm getting it from. So but what is a best by date? It's just they ensure freshness. So what they're basically saying is if you consume it before this date,
they're going to taste the best.
We're pretty much guaranteeing they're going to taste the best. After this date, not so much. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get you sick. Hopefully that helps. Joanna said, I switched to natural fluoride-free toothpaste and gave up mouthwash years ago.
Nice.
Yeah, it's always a good idea. We don't need all that extra fluoride. Joanna also said, I began my life in 2017, keto life. There were influencers, but I never connected with anyone until the berries and 2KK. I felt like I was adrift before. Now I'm part of a family.
I'm so glad you feel that way. I'm glad you're in my family.
Somebody had asked, but I saw it pop up over here, but now I can't find it. But somebody had asked about eggs causing inflammation, especially on beef, butter, bacon, egg. For some people, an egg white can cause inflammation. A lot of people who have allergies to eggs, it's to the whites, not the yolks. I would try consuming only the yolks. One of the biggest issues and things that could possibly go wrong with the egg white bread is you're consuming a lot of egg whites.
Just the egg whites.
I mean, we got to the point where we were consuming a loaf a day of that egg white bread. Well, that is a lot of egg whites.
Right.
And that can cause an egg white sensitivity.
I mean, we've even talked to like bodybuilders who were leveraging the egg white powder in like their shakes before working out and really worked themselves into a problem because they were doing it, they were consuming it every single day in major quantities because it sounds good, a lot of protein, right? But like we have to have ratios. We cannot demonize fat and be like, it's all about the lean protein and never incorporating any fat with it.
Okay, so Rosie does have a comment about the Gola. She said, I took Gola for a while. And one thing I will say is that it worked to keep my sugar levels down when I did eat carbs. That helped in the beginning stages of learning about diabetes and the new diet. But there's a lot of, you can use allulose to keep your sugar down.
Yeah,
without
help.
Spending nearly the money of Gola. You can use Good Idea drinks.
Yes.
So things like chromium picolinate and stuff like that. That's what I said. All they're doing is giving you another weight loss supplement. That's all it is. It's not a magic pill for keto. Something like a carb blocker on keto, it's just not a good idea, and it's really going to be a waste of your money.
Well, and you know,
John said butter is my appetite suppressor.
Right. Even if you're utilizing things, I have to think about sustainability. A lot of times we put ourselves in like this desperate box and we want to live in this desperate box. And so if you're training yourself to stay eating bread and like a lot of like carby stuff, and you're saying like, well, and then I'm using this and this is balancing it, then that product is going to have to be on the line for the rest of your life and able for you to purchase it. And you're going to have to purchase it for the rest of your life because you're training yourself to that product. I know it's going to be maybe a slower go at it because you're not utilizing these products, but it's something that can be sustainable because no matter where you are, whether you have that product or not, whether you have the finances to continue purchasing that product, you've trained yourself not to have that bread or not to have those very carby things in your life. So you're not playing that seesaw game and you're not going to have to continue playing it the rest of your life.
Penny said,
Hey, Penny.
I did a grocery delivery to an assisted living. I felt so bad for those people. It was all white bread, white sugar, and the size of a 25-pound bag and fake juice.
It's sad because we were there too. It's not just somebody that's like later in life, but it is what I have decided is the only comfort I will allow myself. We were not living in any shape or form. And we were trapped by our own small thinking, believing that the only enjoyment in life was going to be a sweet treat, was going to be a copious amount of carbs. Like that carb indulgence was the only celebration that we could have in life. And it was a sad existence. It really was. It was the title of every date night. It was everything we look forward to in the work week. Like that was not living. And I hate to see that in assisted living communities, that it's like, what are you saying? That there's no hope for any activity, anything else, any hobby that's going to bring you joy? No other way to enjoy your day except for like look forward to a big bag of juice. right? And feeling terrible afterwards.
So Aaron said, any suggestion on what to do with 2 cups of lamb fat? It was left over after slow cooking a few lamb breasts. Yeah, what I would do is I turn it into like a lamb fat tallow. Like just make some like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that lamb fat and basically just like bacon grease, you want to clean it. And so put it into like a slow cooker, something like that, and just let it go until all you have left is the fat. So the water is that will boil out any meat or anything like that, and then you can skim it off, run it through a strainer, and you have basically lamb tallow. That's what I would do with it. Joe said, have you ever thought about using electric farm equipment since you don't need huge stuff with your small farm? There's a company here in South Florida that's designing and importing directly.
I mean,
so like as somebody's in landscaping and stuff, like yeah, they're coming out with like electric stuff. Some of it is good, some of it's bad. So a lot of it is expensive. So when I was recently up at the mower place by where I've dealt with for 27 years, Green Thumb, they've got like robot things.
Like a remote control?
Well, they actually have a robot one, like a Roomba for grass, but there's also a remote control one, but it's about $3,800 and it can do about a half an acre on a charge. And it's a half an acre to an acre depending on actually no, you can do 2 acres on it. It's a half an acre cutting per hour, and it can go up to 2 acres, between 1 to 2 acres, depending on the type of grass, how wet it is, all things like that. But they're super expensive. I did tell Anthony that I would buy that if I had a bunch of properties as a landscaper with big slopes along the water, because you can't run a mower on it, and that thing can go at 45 degrees. But we are going to need not a big tractor, but what they call a compact tractor, because of the amount of land that we have to mow. Like over 4 acres of it is just open field, and then lots of trees to cut. We have got to move things, so we're going to be digging a lot of trenches to install solar. So that's why we're buying a compact tractor.
Yeah,
that you can put. Rachel's calling it the Swiss Army tractor because it's like any tractor. It's got skid loader attachments on the front, so you can put everything from wood chippers, wood splitters, grapples, rakes, hose, vacuums, everything on there.
It's funny. We just thought it would be interesting. We started to put together a list on like Amazon of things that we're going to need to purchase that we're going to make public.
Are you sending that to our family?
Well, I'm just going to, we're going to post it on some of our upcoming videos just so that you can see some of the things that are on our list to buy, just for interesting sake. Like, I think it just would be interesting to see where our mind is. What are some of the things that it takes to begin a farm?
Yeah.
Because this is a new experience for sure.
Sean said, I just saw another camping RVer say Matt's RV needs some help. He's trying to be the most sold camping supply person on Amazon for Prime Day. I love his product. JJ said, I get eggs from my neighbor. She said she washes them 99% of the time. I leave one out overnight for my morning coffee. They go pretty fast. Yeah, I think you're going to be fine that way.
Yeah.
Sean said, I love Zombieland. Rule number 17, cardio.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that is so funny. That was a really fun movie.
Donna said, I've come across 2 rotten eggs my entire life and I keep them forever. One was store-bought, one was farm fresh. Yeah, we've had eggs in our fridge for more than 60 days and they've been perfectly fine. The only rotten eggs we've gotten from the girls in like what is it, like 3 years that we've had the chickens, is one point where one of the chickens, and we didn't notice because we had a few laying, and the breed that we get, which are red stars, they lay a lot.
They're also known as golden comets.
Yeah. They're sex lanes, but they lay a lot. So if you have 5 or 6 chickens and you're averaging 4 or 5 a day, you don't know who's not laying, right? So one girl decided to go behind a table. We had like a folding table up against the fence.
Yep.
And she was laying there, and she must have been laying there for a couple of months. And one day Anthony goes out and he goes, gosh, it smells over here. And we went behind there and there were like 20 or 30 eggs that she was laying there.
Yeah.
And they were rotten.
Yeah. So once we found her hidey hole, sealed it up.
JP wants to know if we have a shovel. Yeah, so we're going to be getting off. I was just looking if there's anything else. Jen said, Would you consider doing a wish list like Chris Cooking Nashville where we can help buy those things? Since I can't donate my time, I'd love to contribute. Yeah, we'll make some kind of a list public.
Oh, that's neat.
Okay, we are going to get off because John Paul needs my help.
We got to get electricity back in that house.
Get electricity back. So we greatly appreciate you guys for joining us. We will have some more videos this week. We will be back live on Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. If you're a member of our Meatheads group, which is the paid group on Mighty Networks, members.twocrazyketos.com. You can do $5, $10, or $15, and you can get into the Meatheads group. The rest of Mighty Networks is completely free, but you're Wednesday at
10 a.m.
Eastern time. Everybody have a great day. We really appreciate it.
We love you.
Bye.